Hey everybody, this is D Hunter, brand new action figure review. Today, we're going to look at the Queen Studios InArt, The Dark Knight Rises Batman. This is a brand new 1/12 scale DC action figure line. InArt typically specializes in 1/6 scale figures, similar to Hot Toys. So this is supposed to be a very high quality 1/12 scale Batman figure. I did have the privilege of getting to review the regular version a while ago, but finally the official release is here, and this is going to be the deluxe version. So let's take a look at the packaging. I ordered this from 1/6 Kit. They specialize in mostly third-party figures. This is not a third-party figure, it's officially licensed, but they have this for pre-order as well. As you see, we have the Dark Knight Trilogy logo. Batman, The Dark Knight Rises, InArt 1/12 collectible figure, Queen Studios, InArt. Here's the front of the package. The side, Dark Knight Trilogy. Other side, the deluxe version of the Dark Knight Trilogy Batman. And the back, a bunch of credits and so forth. And at the bottom, there is a barcode, if that helps. So with no further ado, let's open it up. And of course, I did get two of these figures, one of which to open and enjoy, the other one to keep unopened in my complete Batman-related unopened action figure collection. Alright, now that we have this figure out of the package, here he is with all the accessories laid out. Comes with quite a bit of cool stuff. We have a display stand, his cape, 10 alternate hands, totaling 12 interchangeable hands, 3 different mouth or chin pieces, 2 different heads, one masked, one unmasked, his EMP gun, his sticky bomb gun, his grappling launcher, and then 4 batarangs, 2 a little bit larger, 2 a little bit smaller. Before we take a look at all that, let's talk about and check out the figure. So this is the InArt 1/12 scale Batman from The Dark Knight Rises. Could really also be the one from The Dark Knight. This is a premium, top quality, sort of Hot Toys scale 1/12 figure. It looks great. It's a little bit on the smaller side of things, closer to SH Figure Arts, maybe a little bit lower than Mafex, but we'll check all that out later in the video. Like I said before, I did get to review the regular version, and that one is awesome, but of course the deluxe one is even better. The differences between the two sets, this one has the unmasked Christian Bale head and the display stand, both of which are pretty cool. So let's take a closer look. So, start with his head. It looks fantastic. Every bit of the sculpt of the cowl looks perfect from the film. The fact that ears are sort of going inward a little bit, sort of curved on the side, the expression on the brow, the sort of odd look at the mouth, how it's sort of rounded going in, it looks on point. Then the outfit, we have the bat symbol here, the different sort of plates all over the guy, and it hides the articulation very nicely. You can see how they kind of separate a little bit, but bam, you can barely tell when not moving it. The belt seems a little bit on the low side of things. It is there to cover up this gap below there. He has what looks like single jointed elbows, but they go in quite a bit. I guess it's double jointed in their own way. It looks really sharp, really good. The fins are doubled up like they should be in the movie. The belt looks great. The shoulder pads move out of the way and don't hinder the articulation. The only thing I really think is ugly about him is the way they did the hips here. We have the crotch piece, then we have the sort of hips, then the legs, and there's a noticeable gap there. And it gives the articulation, I guess, sort of separate there. But I think they could have done something a little bit better there. Double jointed knees. I like the texturing on the boots. I like damn near everything about this figure. He looks phenomenal. Amazing. I only wish he was just a little bit taller. And a closer look at his face and head sculpt, which I think is on point. It is almost perfect. It screams Christian Bale and Batman from the Dark Knight Trilogy. It doesn't just scream it looks exactly like it. Every sculpt and detail, paint job, it is all on point. And then, here's the figure, broken down as far as he can go, with all of his removable parts detached. Now let's check out his accessories. And let's start off by attaching the cape. Now let's look at his cape. It's a cloth soft goods cape. When stretched out, it looks about like this. It has these little sort of clasps that will attach to the figure over his shoulders. Unfortunately, it does not have a bendy wire in it. That would be kind of nice. It feels very nice, sort of lightweight, but sort of heavy at the same time. It does, hold itself down. I like it. The material feels and looks very nice. In order to attach the cape, you have to remove this chest piece, which is held together with magnets, and you'll insert the little clamps into those holes there, put the chest piece back on, and bam, a secure cape. And that took a little while. It was kind of hard to balance putting the cape sort of plastic pieces into those holes, holding them down, and then get the magnet chest on, but once I did, it looks great. Like I said, the cape, it's sort of light but heavy enough to hang down at the same time. It looks pretty good. Goes down to around his feet. The length is about perfect. It has a very slight little gap at the back there. Doesn't really look bad. Comes out of his chest armor seamlessly. You can't even tell that it was removed or anything sticking out. The cape itself can extend about that far. Could be cool for some gliding things, just like in the films. You can kind of put it in front of him a little bit, sort of covering him up. But really just sort of supposed to look like this. And I think it looks pretty good. It would have been kind of nice if we had an alternate cape with a bendy wire or a big outstretched gliding one, but this is very nice. If I had to pick one of those three, it would be this type. But maybe with a bendy wire. And I will say that slit on the back of his cape is completely accurate to the film. One mildly interesting thing about this guy are his knees. They're slightly bent. You can't get him into a full upright vanilla pose, which is how I normally position my action figures. But I guess it makes him a little more realistic. People usually don't stand with their knees completely locked upright. Now let's look at his display stand. It comes in two separate pieces. When put together, it looks like this. So we have a large black base, shattered Dark Knight Rises logo, very cool. And then we have this post which attaches down here. It's hinged at the bottom. It has rotation at the bottom, hinge in the middle, hinge near the top, rotation near the top, and this clamp to hold your figure in place. Now let's look at his hands. He has a total of 12 of them. 5 left hands and 7 right hands. And I'll tell you, when pulling them off the figure, very, very well done. A lot of these import figures, you feel like you're going to snap the wrist pegs, swapping them in and out. Let me show you how this one went. So here's the figure with no hands on. You can see the wrist peg. So, take one of these little fists, put it on there and listen. You can kind of hear when it pops on. Hand has sort of like a rubbery feel. It has some give to it. And it just feels so good. Like it's not going to break. No resistance. Almost like it suction cups it in there. I think it's engineered very nicely. Here he is with his first pair of hands. These are his fists. Here's his second pair of hands. This is a pair of gripping hands. Here's a pair of sort of extended hands. When I see these, I think like his fingers are extended, like he just threw the batarang. And here, with a pair of default hands, they would look good relaxed at his sides. And here's another set of hands. His right hand is a gripping hand with a really small grip for his batarang, and his left hand is kind of like a semi-open hand. It could hold something rather large. And he has 2 additional right hands. Here's a gripping hand with a trigger finger, and he has one more right hand, another gripping hand with a trigger finger with a little bit of a further extended index finger. Now let's look at his heads. He has 2 heads, one with the cowl on and one with the cowl off. Of course, the one with the Batman mask on has a separate neck piece, and the unmasked head does not. Here's a look at his first head. This one has a Batman cowl on. And here's the second unmasked head. This is Bruce Wayne with the Batman suit on. And the likeness to Christian Bale is uncanny. It looks amazing. Very, very well done. Unfortunately, the way the unmasked head is designed with the neck permanently attached, you won't be able to swap it out with a different figure and make a custom Bruce Wayne in civilian attire or business suit. And that's a damn shame because his head looks so damn good. Now let's look at his cape. It's a cloth soft goods cape. When stretched out, it looks about like this. It has these little sort of clasps that will attach to the figure over his shoulders. Unfortunately, it does not have a bendy wire in it. That would be kind of nice. It feels very nice, sort of lightweight, but sort of heavy at the same time. It does, hold itself down. I like it. The material feels and looks very nice. In order to attach the cape, you have to remove this chest piece, which is held together with magnets. And you'll insert the little clamps into those holes there, put the chest piece back on, and bam, a secure cape. And that took a little while. It was kind of hard to balance putting the cape sort of plastic pieces into those holes, holding them down, and then get the magnet chest on. But once I did, it looks great. Like I said, the cape, it's sort of light but heavy enough to hang down at the same time. It looks pretty good. Goes down to around his feet. The length is about perfect. It has a very slight little gap at the back there. Doesn't really look bad. Comes out of his chest armor seamlessly. You can't even tell that it was removed or anything sticking out. The cape itself can extend about that far. Could be cool for some gliding things, just like in the films. You can kind of put it in front of him a little bit, sort of covering him up. But really just sort of supposed to look like this. And I think it looks pretty good. It would have been kind of nice if we had an alternate cape with a bendy wire or a big outstretched gliding one, but this is very nice. If I had to pick one of those three, it would be this type, but maybe with a bendy wire. And I will say that slit in the back of his cape is completely accurate to the film. One mildly interesting thing about this guy are his knees. They're slightly bent. You can't get him into a full upright vanilla pose, which is how I normally position my action figures. But I guess it makes him a little more realistic. People usually don't stand with their knees completely locked upright. Now let's look at his hands. He has a total of 12 of them. 5 left hands and 7 right hands. And I'll tell you, when pulling them off the figure, very, very well done. A lot of these import figures, you feel like you're going to snap the wrist pegs, swap them in and out. Let me show you how this one went. So here's the figure with no hands on. You can see the wrist peg. So take one of these little fists, put it on there and listen. You can kind of hear when it pops on. Hand has sort of like a rubbery feel. It has some give to it. And it just feels so good. Like it's not going to break. No resistance. Almost like a suction cups it in there. I think it's engineered very nicely. Here he is with his first pair of hands. These are his fists. Here's his second pair of hands. This is a pair of gripping hands. Here's a pair of sort of extended hands. When I see these, I think like his fingers are extended, like he just threw the batarang. And here, with a pair of default hands, they would look good relaxed at his sides. And here's another set of hands. His right hand is a gripping hand with a really small grip for his batarang, and his left hand is kind of like a semi-open hand. It could hold something rather large. And he has 2 additional right hands. Here's a gripping hand with a trigger finger, and he has one more right hand. Another gripping hand with a trigger finger with a little bit of a further extended index finger. Now let's look at his mouths. He has 3 of them, 2 of which have a fairly normal expression, and one has a kind of frowning expression. Here he is with his first mouth. This one looks to be about the most normal expression. Here's his second mouth. This one looks pretty similar to the last one, and it's not smiling, but it's a little bit closer to a smile than the last one. And here's his third mouth. This one has a little bit of a frown, a more angry expression. And in case you were wondering how he looks with no mouth at all, he looks like this. Just sort of a black hole there for the peg for the inside of his mouth to attach to. Now let's look at his batarangs. He has 4 of them. They're done in a gold color, and they look like the Dark Knight Trilogy bat symbol. 2 smaller ones, 2 larger ones, which is accurate to the film. You didn't really see a lot of batarang use in the films besides Batman Begins, but he did have some smaller batarangs and some larger ones. You can see the sculpt on the larger ones. I believe they would sort of fold in half and fit onto his utility belt. Then he also had the smaller ones. Here's Batman holding and getting ready to throw his batarang. And even though it looks small, this is actually the larger one. And then here, holding that smaller batarang. Now let's look at the rest of his weapons or bat gadgets. First of all, we have his gravity launcher. Sculpt's fantastic. I like the paint job. It's got the black and the gold. Sculpt is just great. Then we have his sticky bomb launcher, and the figure is advertised as from The Dark Knight Rises, but this was only used in The Dark Knight, but it goes with the suit. This part in the back would pump out, and it would shoot the sticky bomb from here. Then we have his EMP gun. Once again, the sculpt is just fantastic. It even has the sort of blue at the front. Very pleased with what I'm looking at. In particular, the grapnel launcher and EMP gun. Here's Batman holding and getting ready to use his grapnel launcher. Here's Batman holding that EMP gun, about to disable some vehicles. And here's Batman holding that sticky bomb launcher, which is actually not the right way to hold it. The right way for him to hold it would be about like this. In the film, he had one hand on the trigger here, and another hand at the back, sort of pumping it and reloading the next sticky bombs. Now because this Batman only has a trigger finger hand on his right hand, it makes it a little bit difficult to hold that way. Something about like this is the right way he held it in the film. Now that we've taken a pretty good look at both the figure and his accessories, let's check out his height. From bottom to the top of his head, standing about 6 or 6.1 inches tall, which can translate to just over 15 centimeters. And if you go to the top of the ears, about 6.2 or maybe 6.3 inches tall. This guy is done in true 1/12 scale, where 6.0 inches equals 6 foot tall. Most of the 1/12 figures that I have are probably more like 1/11 figures. They stand about 6.5 inches tall, and that is a scale that I personally prefer, but this guy is still absolutely fantastic, and he's going to fit in with some of the smaller action figure lines that I collect. And for his articulation, starting with his head, of course, it can rotate side to side. He can look up about that far, down quite a bit as well. He can tilt his head from one side to the other, giving him a good amount of personality. He has articulation both at the top of the neck and at the bottom of the neck as well, giving him a very wide range of motion in the neck area. Shoulders, they go up more than 90 degrees, sort of a ball joint inside of there, or a peg going inside of there. Now the shoulder pads, they can come out, they can go up like that, they can get pushed back in. Very well done. They're sort of hinged in two different places inside of there. He has, looks like a little bit of drop down shoulders, but not by much. Kind of push him back up a little bit. He does have, looks like sort of a butterfly joint there, goes forward and back a little bit. He's got a bicep cut below that. It's hidden very nicely under the armor. I don't even really see it. I guess it's right here. Then he has double jointed elbows. They go in all the way. His wrist can rotate, and it's hinged as well. And you can change the way it's hinged if you rotate around, and then kind of go up and down. In his torso, he's got a ball joint at the top, rotate around, forward and back, but not by much. He has another ball joint, looks like right below that, at least another layer. Kind of rotate around, forward and back. In his waist, another one, rotate around, forward and back. He just has tons of layers of articulation. I see something here, and here, and then I think even down below. So between all of them, pretty good range of motion in the torso area. Each one has this little bit of motion. Add them all together, it works pretty good, and it is seamless. You cannot see that at all. Very, very well done. Kind of got these drop down hips a little bit. The belt looks like it kind of slid up. Use that to cover that up. Legs, they go out about this far. Not completely does the splits, but pretty close. Interesting engineering going inside of here. It's not really ball joints. Tons of stuff going on here. So the legs can go out that far. There is rotation here, and that's probably my only complaint, is you can kind of see a little bit larger at the bottom of the leg than the top. You could just tighten that up just a tiny bit, but that could affect the articulation. And they go forward absolutely all the way. Back, not much. Very pleased with what I'm looking at there. It's well done, but this is the only area that you can sort of see the articulation. And I can imagine as they continue to release 1/12 scale figures, they might be able to improve upon that. It just looks like a little bit too much going on there. Functionality is pretty good though. Double jointed knees, I only go back about that far, and that's fine. There's no rotation there. His ankle, forward and back, rotate, tilt, rock, and of course, toe articulation. This guy can hit a wide variety of poses. Of course, you can have him standing up straight. You wanted him crouching down on one knee, looking over a rooftop. Absolutely no problem there. You want him to be in sort of a fighting pose. You probably want to swap out his fists, but he can stand there, ready to go, put his angry face on, ready to fight Bane like the Dark Knight Rises. You want him to kick It can go out about that far. And you can have him sort of reaching up, taking off his cowl. He can do almost anything that you really want him to do. Very pleased with the appearance and functionality of this guy. Here's a look at Batman on a rooftop of Gotham. Bat signal behind him, and more of a close-up of this Bale as Batman on the rooftop. Here's a look at Batman in the Batcave with his vehicles and armory behind him. Here's Batman with the Joker in the GCPD interrogation room. And here we have Batman in the Gotham City streets using his EMP cannon against some motorcycles. And then Batman driving the Batpod through the streets of Gotham City. Here's Batman facing off with Bane, just like he did in The Dark Knight Rises. Here's a look at this Batman figure in front of a building in Gotham City with the burning bat symbol behind him, just like the poster for The Dark Knight. And here he is in that iconic scene and pose from The Dark Knight, looking defeated with rubble all behind him. Now let's check him out. Next is some other action figures, starting off with some other Christian Bale Dark Knight Trilogy Batman figures. Here's the InArt Dark Knight Batman, next to the Hot Toys 1/12 scale Dark Knight Batman. And people say the InArt 1/12 scale figures are like shrunken down Hot Toys. Well, this InArt 1/12 scale Christian Bale Batman looks way better than Hot Toys' version. And here he is, next to the SH Figure Arts version, which is a very nice Dark Knight Batman figure, but has definitely been topped by InArt. And here, with a Mattel Movie Master Dark Knight Batman. Then, with the Soap Studios Dark Knight Batman figure. Then, with the Moto King Dark Knight Batman. Next, with the Mafex 3.0 Dark Knight Batman figure. And now, with McFarlane's DC Multiverse Dark Knight Batman figure. Completely different scale here. Here are a bunch of different Christian Bale Dark Knight Batman figures from various companies, from smallest to largest. We have Hot Toys, SH Figure Arts, Mattel, InArt, Soap Studios, Moto King, Mafex, and McFarlane Toys. There is an upcoming version from Mezco. Curious what that's going to turn out to be like. And I'd say before this InArt version, the SH Figure Arts is probably the best one as far as articulation, function, mobility, etc. InArt has completely dethroned him. I'd say before this InArt one, McFarlane was my favorite because I prefer that scale. But this InArt one is just fantastic. It is a masterpiece of a figure. Here's this Batman next to all the Mafex Batman Rogues from the Dark Knight Trilogy. They scale up just a hair taller than him, but look pretty good together as a group. Scarecrow, Ra's al Ghul, the Joker, Two-Face, Bane, and Catwoman. Pretty much the only one they didn't make was Talia al Ghul, and that doesn't really surprise me. Here he is, next to the Felix Toys third-party Heath Ledger Joker. I'd say it's definitely the best Heath Ledger Joker figure out there. He scales up a little bit larger than InArt, and this is the scale that I was hoping InArt would be. This is probably the Joker most worthy of standing up next to this Batman. Now let's check him out, next to some action figures from different various companies, so we can see how he fits in both scale and style-wise, in case you want to know which lines you can mix him with. Since he's an InArt 1/12 scale figure, he's a 6-inch scale, I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of these smaller action figure lines I collect, and work my larger, and I'm going to include as many Batman figures as I can during these comparisons. Here he is, next to some Jazzworth Fortnite figures, and some SH Figure Arts Batman figures. And now, with some Hasbro Marvel Legends and Mafex Batman figures, here's this Batman next to a hamburger bun. And here he is, with some Mattel and Mezco Batman figures. Then, with both some Mattel and Jazzworth Wrestling figures. Next, with some NECA and DC Direct figures. And finally, with some McFarlane and Diamond Select toys. So overall, this is an absolutely fantastic 6-inch Batman figure. Here are my complaints. Number one, he's a little bit shorter than I'd like, and that's not really a problem with the figure, just my own personal preferences. He's more like SH Figure Arts, smaller than Mafex. In addition to that, the sort of area in the thighs have a little bit too much going on. It's a little bit too noticeable in the articulation compared to the rest of the figure. I wish he had an alternate cape with a bendy wire. This one does lay very nicely flat, and it looks great. But a bendy wire for posing purposes would be nice. It'd be nice to have both options. And my final complaint would be, I wish the unmasked head was not permanently attached to the neck. Hell, even give it a separate neck piece. That way, you could take it and swap it onto a suited body and have a civilian Bruce Wayne. That would be awesome. Everything is fantastic about this guy. The texture on the suit, the articulation is mostly hidden. The sculpt, the paint job are just top notch. It truly does look like a Hot Toys quality figure shrunken down to the 1/12 scale size. And that is amazing. Usually when companies like that make a 1/12 scale figure, they look a whole lot worse than their 1/6 scale. This guy does not. Now, originally I rated the figure at 8.5 out of 10. This deluxe version is pretty much the same thing. I think over time, I am totally going to give this guy a 9 out of 10. The only reason I gave him an 8.5 was because he's a little bit shorter than I'd like, and I wish he was a little bit taller to fit into more stuff in my collection. But this figure is amazing. It absolutely deserves a 9 out of 10, and it is absolute top notch. If you're on the fence about getting this figure, and you think you may or may not want it, you absolutely do want it. It is the best Christian Bale figure in the 6 or 7 inch scale, and there are so many to choose from, so that is a very big accomplishment. So this is D Hunter. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say about the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you guys real soon.